Well, geez, it sure is boring being here all by myself. I wish I had one of the boys here to keep me company. There's nothing but sexy robots everywhere. Well, what do we have here? Does that say Jeice? Well, I guess it is. Well, come on, boy, get out of there.
That's right, everybody. Today, we will be looking at none other than the Red Magma, the right-hand man of the Ginyu Force, Jeice. Jeice is the number 2 guy, and he is a hot and fiery Australian boy from outer space. Never quite understood the reasoning for him being Australian in the dub, but nonetheless, I always loved him. This SH Figuarts is an exclusive to their web shop, and thus it is a bit expensive to try to find now. But me being a huge fan of the Ginyu Force, I had to get this along with the rest of the team, so today we're gonna take a look and see if he's as hot as Magma gets. So put on your best suit of armor and strike the ultra fighting pose, because now we are getting into Ginyu Force's very own Jeice, SH Figuarts. For those who may be new to the SH Figuarts line, which I can't think of many, he does come with a pamphlet that actually explains how to remove and exchange certain parts, because of course, part of this line is that they are very customizable and fun to play with. Jeice comes in his own plastic blister, of which everything seems to be together in one package. He also comes with some hands.
Oh, jeez, come let me out here, Ginyu. You go get me out of here, mate.
And here goes Mr. Jeice in all of his glory. I've got to say, I'm rather surprised at the way his skin looks. I was more expecting a very vibrant, super saturated red, but this is a much more tame, almost maroon in a way. Even with a lot of light on him, he still doesn't look super red. I mean, he does, but it doesn't look gross, which I think I'm appreciating. He doesn't have that plasticky look to his skin. It actually looks kind of velvety. I gotta say I am a fan because it does look far more natural for skin. With Ginyu next to him, he almost looks like far more normal, I guess? I mean, yeah, Ginyu is purple and he's red, but I don't know, there's just something different about that texture, I guess. Leathery, sunburnt Australian skin aside, he is incredibly solid, and that's going to be thanks to his hair metal white mane. This honestly looks kind of stupid. The way that it flows out from the top of his head looks very unnatural because of just how much it's pinched. I'm not going to be looking at the back of him, but I feel like there has to have been a better way for them to have made that look more natural. I don't know. Right now it just looks like he's got a blanket attached to the back of his head. But I guess from the front he looks very show accurate. And while I do appreciate him being so solid, he is almost too heavy to play with. Just getting him to hunch over like this in a power-up stance was nearly impossible. Distributing his weight is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, Captain Ginyu, I'm ready to get this guy, I am. Let me take care of him, mate.
Let me just show you how bad it is. I have him standing straight up, and I'm actually leaning him forward just a slight bit to get him to stand, but that hair drags him back every time, baby.
Did it ever occur to you that I might just be a little bit drunk then?
No, it didn't, Jeice, so shut up. Now, despite that being the case, there is no limit to his articulation. I mean, there's some, but that's not the problem. He poses really well. Funny enough, his hair actually is posable. You can pull it out and in, and even spin it around a little bit because it's on, I guess, a hinge joint or a peg hinge or something like that, with even some metal reinforcement in there, which is kind of crazy to see. I mean, this is the heaviest part of the figure. If they would have made this maybe hollow, I think it would have been a lot better off. Just sucks because we'll never get re-engineered versions of these guys. Similar to Ginyu, he does have the flaps on his shoulders, but these ones seem far less forgiving than Ginyu's. My biggest problem with Ginyu's was that they had little dots there that would allow you to pull them off, whereas these ones don't. You can just straight up break one of these, which is very, very scary to think. Like with Ginyu, if you overposed him, it would just come out because of that peg. Whereas here, it's actually looped in to that plastic and it can snap. But strangely enough, to combat that, they've given you alternate pieces for the shoulder pads that I guess are opened up a little bit more for them to pose. But I don't know, I mean, I like the fact that this is here, but even still, I think still having that peg would have been smarter. So like most other SH Figuarts, his head is just going to be the standard up and down, left to right, and it can roll around as well, especially because he does have that second hinge there with his neck, which allows for a little bit better movement, though, again, with his hair, you're going to be limited in what you can do. His arms are on their typical ball joints, but there's no butterfly here to speak of, mainly because of the shoulder design, I think, and that's kind of unfortunate because now he can't reach in front of him like the other figures can. But I guess that ball in there is decent enough, though I don't know, I think it's kinda limited compared to what I come to expect from an SH Figuarts. Oh, he was just really stiff. He does have a butterfly joint, thank goodness. I was gonna say, if they removed that, that would have just been stupid. He does have a butterfly confirmed.
I ain't no damn butterfly, I'm more like a beetle. I'm a big old beetle, I'm a big red bug, mate. I fly away like a ladybug.
He does have some swivel at the top of his arm, so where his arm actually connects into the shoulder, it can swivel there. Then his elbow is simply a hinge. It is, however, a double hinge, though it's not gonna do much more than bend. Now his hands are on small ball joints, and they fall off rather easily, and these are hinged so they can move around decently, but mine seem to just fall off with the slightest bit of force. So at his waist, we have a ball, which will allow his chest to rotate where the armor connects. I actually really like the way this moves. That's really useful, and it can crunch forward quite a bit once you loosen him up. It can move back decently, but not a ton. Plus, he also has a giant hair, and he's got a cute little butt. Look at that butt. Now, where his waist connects to his pelvis also has a point of articulation. Wow, that was very scary, the noise that just made. His waist sounds ratcheted. And I am not gonna play with that anymore because that's scaring the hell out of me. Did I mention that he's an exclusive and he's really hard to get, so he's kind of expensive? Anyway, he has the typical pelvic design here where his shorts are split up into these three little areas with the flaps, and then his legs have that nasty looking spread out joint. I don't know, that's another butterfly there at the thigh, and I think it looks terrible, but whatever, it works. So he can kick in and out, and he can kick front to back. Oh, that's squeaky. Of course, his thick old thigh can rotate right there as well, which is nice. The knee is double segmented here, so you can get a very unnatural look out of it when you bend it, and it can kick pretty much all the way back, which is really useful. Finally, he has a foot rolling around on a ball joint, as well as a toe bend. Very nice. But let's talk accessories, and those come in the form of a few different things. First, we'll pop off his hair. Wow, what a head.
Look at the top of his head!
Hilariously, instead of having a head, he has hair that you can remove his face from. Look at that. Still falls over. Now by default, Jeice wears a cocky smirk, which I love. This is very much like him. And his scouter is removable because you can put it onto the other faceplates. But the problem I have is that it doesn't attach like the old school scouters did for the classic Vegeta, and they just clip right into the side of the head rather than onto the ear. So there's no way to make him not wear a scouter, which, if you understand what happens when they start fighting, the scouters almost always get broken. So the fact that you can't display him without it is kind of a pain in the butt. Same thing with Ginyu, but whatever, I guess. One of his faceplates is a very shocked face. Open, wide eyes, furrowed brow, open mouth, teeth showing as if he were about to say, "Vegeta, no, please don't hurt me, mate." Okay, this one might actually be my favorite. I know that this is meant for the Crusher Ball, but the fact that he's got his mouth like that, I don't know why, that's just so funny.
Oh, jeez, Captain Ginyu, would you take a look at the size of that frog over there?
His faceplates are all pretty similar, to be honest. This one here, his eyes are open, mouth is open wide, teeth showing, but this time he looks a bit angrier than he does in the other one. You know what? I'm actually confused as to whether or not I showed you both of the faceplates or not, because look at how similar these two are. One is meant to be a bit more angry. Maybe he's about to be like,
"Yeah, Vegeta, while you were gone, I became number 2, mate. Oh, old mate, I'm so strong now I am. You ain't gonna beat me."
And the other one's more like,
please don't hurt me, mate. I don't want to get a little bruise on my red bottom."
I think they're all fun to have included. 4 faceplates is nice, though I would have preferred another more neutral one. By default, Jeice is wearing a pair of fists when you take him out of the box, which is pretty fitting. I mean, these characters do fight a lot, so he would be able to throw hands like this. But like I was saying earlier, you can pop those hands off rather easily and put on some new ones. Pop open your rack of hands here and let's see what he has. His hands are kind of similar too, but it's for good reason. If you see on the left side of the screen here, he has a flat chopping hand, which is great if he wants to do a little chopping. Now on the right side of the screen, you'll see that he has the flat hand as well, but it's bent at a 90-degree angle where his wrist connects. This is not so that he can walk like an Egyptian, but rather lay up and lay down the crusher ball as if it were a volleyball. It's a special move. If you haven't watched Dragon Ball Z, you won't get it. I should mention these hands all come in pairs. On the left side here, you see his hand is flat and open, but it's curled just a bit, and I think that's because this is for the Dragon Ball. Whereas the right side, his hand is cupped and his fingers are curled as if he wanted to do a little bit of grabbing, if you know what I'm saying. These could be used for combat as well, but I think either one would suit the Dragon Ball. Let's find out. Now, Jeice here comes with a 2-star Dragon Ball, which looks great, just like the one that came with Ginyu, and these can be held, you know what, maybe not the flat hand, maybe the gripping hand. I don't know if I trust either one, to be honest.
Hey, mate, let's get a bloody good look at your Dragon Balls.
His final hand is actually this gripping hand, which looks like a fist, but it actually has a slot in it, a very flat slot, mind you, and it has some give to it, not a ton, and it actually keeps falling off of his wrist, so be careful. I don't know if mine just really sucks, but this is meant to hold his briefcase. Pretty sure that this had all the scouters in it when they first got to Namek. I don't really remember, but he is shown with this briefcase in several figures, to be completely honest, which is really funny. They really make this an accessory with pretty much every Jeice figure I've ever seen, even like a small gachapon one. It's actually kind of hard to get the handle into his hand, so be careful doing this. You may want to warm up the hand. It does have a slight bit of give, but the thumb actually looks as if it's attached separately, so I feel like you could potentially break the thumb off. But it's even better now because when he holds his suitcase, will he stand? Nope. So the next accessory is less of an accessory and a bit more of just an optional part to make him easier to pose. I don't exactly know when this would be appropriate, but you're opted to remove the back plate of his armor, which will then hollow it out and remove some of the extra plastic that was blocking these things. If you have a Tamashii stage, you can plug this piece into him, and then from here, you can actually plug in a stand, which I think is great because you would need it, but the fact that they made it an option where they're not actually giving you it when he doesn't stand without it is kind of a dick move. And since I don't have a Tamashii stage, I'm gonna just go ahead and plug him into a Figma base, so now he can do the splits. Problem is even though with that, the stand will stop his hair from going all the way back, so this isn't that much of an option to really do anything with him. And he still falls over. Here's something else. You can actually remove his shoulder pads, which I am super reluctant to try to do. Okay, so I just removed one, very much so against my better judgment, and damn, it's very hard to do. Be careful with this because I really thought I was going to break it. You can see there's 2 tiny teeth there that grip this small hinge, which just really is a bad idea. When I took it off, there was a loud snap, and I swore I broke it, and I was being as careful as possible. Like, I had my fingers as close to the joint as I could, and I was really just trying to like lift out the one side and even kind of like pinch it so that the one would go in further and the other would come out a bit. I don't know if I'd recommend doing it for this, but if you want to, you can put on these angled shoulder pads, which obviously will help you get him into poses that you normally couldn't, such as his main Ginyu Force pose when he takes his stance with the rest of the team. I would recommend having this back plate off when you do attach this because it's gonna dig a little bit in the back when you're trying to put it on, and it's just horrifying. The skinnier part is meant to connect to the front of the chest plate, so keep that in mind. I thought it might have gone in the back and kind of created less of a gap here, but I was wrong. But he can fully raise his hand now above his head, so it is nice to have that. I just think it would have still been wiser to put them on the pegs like they did for Ginyu. Speaking of the Crusher Ball, it actually comes with him as an effect part, which is nice to have, though I do think it's kind of wimpy looking. I remember it being bigger. Still, we know how much Bandai likes to skimp on effect parts, monster arts, literally any of them. But yeah, it's nice to have one here with the DBZ guy. Though this is premium Bandai, so there's really no excuse to not give us a good array of features and accessories. But, that being said, attaching the Crusher Ball actually is done in a pretty innovative way, where you take this thin little clear acrylic piece and you attach the Crusher Ball to this end here, and then this attaches to his arm. I said his arm, but I should have said hand, because if you attach it to his wrist of his glove, it's actually going to dig into the plastic because it's a bit soft, and this acrylic piece is incredibly sharp and hard, so it will damage his wrist. So be careful and just put it around the base of his hand in a way that will not make his hand fall off, but that's going to be challenging because this hand continues to fall off of my figure. Either way, attach it like this. So anyway, here's Crusher Ball. I don't know if I even really like this that much. This one took a while to set up, and I guess it was worth it. When you put the right lighting effect on it, it looks really awesome and very convincing in regards to show accuracy, but man, this took me a while to set up. Additionally, I had to use my strongest stand that I have, which I was able to ratchet the arm to make it tighter for each hinge, just so that it would hold him up. I think the effect is great in the end, but you really gotta think about how you want to display him. I don't know if that's the most practical way. But wait, there's more! Because rather than there being another accessory for Jeice, there's one last accessory for Goku. Yeah, Goku. If you have the Saiyan Raised on Earth Goku, which I absolutely recommend, he's only like $30, this Goku can have his head removed. The accessory you receive with Jeice is an additional head for Goku. Once you match everything up, you'll see that Goku has been possessed by Ginyu. Yes, change now has worked, and Goku is now smirking, rather evil, with a scouter attached to his ear. This is great. Yes, situationally, it's really not that useful because it's really a pretty short amount of time that Goku is like this, but it's still just a fun little addition, and I'm glad that they did it because the more I get of Ginyu, the happier I am.
Hey boy, I'm coming to get that butt. Let me see those Dragon Balls.
So now, with that out of the way, we can finally look at Jeice all together and decide whether or not he was worth it. If you were lucky enough to get Jeice from P Bandai, you were coming in at around $100 with shipping. That's pretty high in regards to an SH Figuarts, but for what it's worth, you do get quite a bit with him. How useful some of the accessories are going to be case to case. Some people, their mileage may vary. For myself, I actually have the Saiyan Raised on Earth Goku, I have Ginyu, I have the whole squad, so it's pretty good for me. I was going to get him either way, but I do rather like Jeice, and ultimately the Ginyu Force is like my favorite thing about Dragon Ball Z, so I was going to get it regardless. The figure has its problems. I think the Crusher Ball is a little small and wimpy, it's kind of hard to implement, and ultimately his hair is way too heavy for him to pose very accurately or just casually even. But I do think he's incredibly show accurate, almost to a fault. The hair, of course, being that fault. Really considering everything, I'm going to give Jeice a 7 out of 10. I was really floating between 7 and 8, but I think my biggest problems with him are the fact that regardless of how great he looks, he's really difficult to really display. He's completely posable, there's no problems there, it's just the fact that no matter what you do with him, he can really only be standing completely straight up or being put on a stand. And of course, then the stand is going to make him a bit more cumbersome because that's going to take up more space. They nailed it with Ginyu. He stands perfectly, and you can get him to squat, bend over, kneel down, and you can do just about anything you want with him. Whereas with Jeice here, that hair is an anchor. Not to mention the change in regards to the shoulder pads really made me nervous in attaching and reattaching them. I appreciate that they wanted to make them stay on better than Ginyu's, but they were incredibly scary to work with. And consider the fact that this figure was like $100. But what do you guys think? Do you think this Jeice was awesome? Do you like Jeice? Do you own this figure or any of the other Ginyu Force figures? Drop a comment and let me know. If you did like the video, make sure to like it, because that does help my channel. Subscribe if you've yet to do so. Join the Discord if you want, there's a link below. Use HobbyLink Japan to buy figures because I get a little kickback from that, and it really does help. And if you want to donate or something, there's links in the description for that as well. There's going to be another video on screen for you to check out. But until next time, Jeice says...
Oh, come on, Captain. I think I deserve at least an 8 out of 10, mate.
Well, Jeice, you can't always get what you want.
Well, thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day and keep on collecting.
トーク戦隊